What's the best defunct store?
Welcome to Good Mythical More.
We're talking about defunct stores, things that were a part of our lives because we're older than you might be. And we're gonna rank all of these stores based on how much we wish that they still existed, at least here in America. I think there's some international exceptions to these. Let's start with Blockbuster.
Rule clarification. Do
Yeah?
you think that we should consider the technological advancements that have rendered this store inconsequential? So, obviously, with Blockbuster, no one rents movies in this way again.
Right.
Anymore. So,
What do you miss about it, and where does that hasn't been replaced by the Netflixification of things? So I think that's how it impacts the
yeah, I mean, I would say that if we're just taking into account how good, like how much I miss it, and it's taking into account when it was, Blockbuster was so great.
Do y'all have one in Bowie's in
we had well, so
we had one. There was one in Dunn, which was like a 12-minute drive. There was one in
most of the video stores that we rented from
were off-brand
were not
shoots, right?
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So it was like
Same.
Coates Family Video was where we got our VCR and our VHS tapes, because you had to rent the VCR and take it home.
Yeah, I never did that.
Because
I think Jimmy
would buy a VCR. My dad wouldn't.
Right.
So the process, you know the whole Netflix paralysis thing that happens?
Yeah.
If you have not made the decision of what you're gonna watch. And that just makes you feel like you can't even make a decision on how to be mindlessly entertained. Like that is just a commentary on our culture, right?
Yeah.
But going to an actual Blockbuster and interacting with a physical DVD case,
Yeah.
and there's like literally, this is a new Blockbuster, and so there's 15 of them, and there's 2 left.
And you're gonna grab it, and that's it.
So the demand of
is
this
it.
movie is like right there physically being represented to you. I don't know. I'm definitely like movie theaters, rent movies, that kind of thing, just like the old way of doing things, because it's become too disposable. So I really miss this process.
I thought where you were going was the Netflix paralysis that we experience now.
Was worse at a Blockbuster?
Not worse, but I experienced it there. I remember I'd start on the left side and go all the way around, and then you find yourself at the end, and you start to feel once you get to close to the end, I haven't picked anything yet.
But there's so many less options at a Blockbuster.
I know, but
it
it still happened. And then you start going down the aisles to the older stuff.
Maybe it's because I'm 20 years younger than you are.
Yeah.
But the thing that was nice about Blockbuster or Hollywood Video is what we had, is that there was a certain age. I couldn't watch PG-13 movies until I was 13. So then a bunch of stuff was unlocked, So then you walk down the aisles and all of a sudden things that are like a few years old that everyone was talking about that you couldn't watch, those are now all new releases for you. And you have the new releases, like the whole world opens up. And then there's something about less options that makes it so, and like physically having to pick up something and like pay for that one thing. It's like, there's some weight on this.
Yeah, I gotta enjoy this. I can't cut this off 15 minutes into it because I don't like it and go to another thing.
Yeah. Also, it's where I first saw the L Word cover. And now I wanna say that you got to maneuver, because season 1, the L Word, the cover of it must have been a DVD. Let's be honest, probably wasn't VHS. Was the entire cast naked, and as a closeted young lesbian in North Carolina, you got to glance without
Side eye.
You don't want anyone to So that was you had to do some walk-by side glancing.
So this is better. Now you just log in and
I don't
get
know.
to it.
No. There's something about the walk by, the plot of it all.
Yeah, what about
the titillation?
The little curtain that took you to the adult section?
I never went back there.
Did not have that.
I never went
Blockbuster
back
didn't
there
have
either.
that.
I do not. I don't. I understand how you miss like the throwback of it all, but I don't know. The music like version of this, where you're talking about streaming versus like going to like a record store.
You love that.
As much as I love records, I wouldn't go back because now I have both. I like having everything at my fingertips right when it comes out, and then I can also elect to get the thing. Now, to buy the record, or a lot of people collect CDs now. But for movies, that's not really the case. There's one Blockbuster that's run by another company, and where is that?
Washington? Oregon.
Yeah,
our friends went to it last
and
time.
there are a few like throwback movie stores, but it's not like with music. So that tells me there's the answer. There's not enough demand for that. And maybe I'm wrong. I go to some record stores and they're half movies. So
there's also a distinctly different, like the technological difference between a record. Speaking of the L word, I'm a loser.
Also, though, remember at Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or whatever, they had those like trash cans that had graphics on the outside that were filled with snacks. You know, like candy. You don't remember this? And like as you went up to check out, they were trying to grab you with like, here's a bunch of candy bars. Here's a bunch of
just
popcorn.
a big bucket with a bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that kind of thing. I like having stuff sold to me. Like, I love an aisle purchase.
If it was a good night, and it said 2 for 1 candy bar situation, ooh, that was a good one.
Okay, Payless Shoe Store. Shoe Source? What? Shoe Source?
Shoe Source. Payless Shoes is what we know. I didn't know it didn't exist anymore, and I don't care because all I am is I start to feel some trauma that every single weekend my mom would drag me shopping wherever she wanted to go because she always had to get something new. And I remember the smell of this place, just standing around, waiting to go somewhere else. I'm putting it way over here. I don't want anything to do with that.
It's kind of interesting that shoe stores, shoe stores are still around, but it makes sense because you gotta try on a shoe. But how many people do what I do, which is I
buy 3 sizes?
No, I buy a shoe that I think is probably going to fit me. I try it on at home, and then I return it if it doesn't fit. Yeah. Like, isn't that the way now?
Yeah.
And if you've got a brand that you're committed to,
then you already know that it fits.
You're like, okay, I know I'm this size in a Nike, and so it'll work.
Right.
Loser.
Nope. Oh, is that what that side is?
I'm a loser.
I feel like that's a Mandela. I don't remember it ever being called Payless Shoe Source. And it was until 2020. They rebranded it to Payless.
This might be a light chicken situation. I don't know.
What?
White chicken with light chicken?
There's different versions. You choose the next one. Unless you want to put this one higher.
No, I don't care about Payless, but I gotta say, I didn't know that this is completely gone.
The Sharper Image.
And I'm a little bit disappointed because I like little doggy robots and massage chairs and ties that you can write with.
In the middle of the mall where like everyone comes together, there was a nice little technological corner of ways to massage yourself.
Sharper Image was the place that you would go in and you would see one of those globes that would direct all of the light beams towards your finger, and you would just touch it, and you'd be a kid in there just touching things, driving the employees crazy, and never once purchasing anything.
I've never bought anything from Sharper Image.
Never.
That explains it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's why it doesn't exist.
I would go in there and just touch things while my mom was shopping for shoes.
This is a great place to loiter.
So we missed this one hardcore. We're putting it over there.
More than Blockbuster?
Also,
yeah, I do.
You're talking specifically about Sharper Image and not Brookstone, right? Like those are 2 different things in your mind?
Well, now that you say it, they're
I
one.
know.
I don't know the difference.
They're one.
I don't know if I've ever. I feel like Brookstone was.
I think Brookstone and Sharper. Could someone please Google?
They're not the same company, and Brookstone still exists.
Yeah, which is, I guess, was why I was like.
I think Brookstone. I think like luggage. It's not fun. Sharper Image was like newfangled fun things that took batteries.
They were once fierce rivals in the gadget retail market.
Gadget retail. Yes, that's it.
The key differences were sharper images, wow factor versus Brookstone's practical items.
Like luggage.
Yep.
Let's stay in that area. Radio Shack. Radio Shack was the place that you had to go back in the early days of us making videos.
Radio Shack.
Like, so if you literally, there wasn't a place that you could go. There was no internet. So you couldn't be like, I need this connection from this piece of a video equipment to this piece of video equipment. And so you had to go to Radio Shack and you had to tell them what you were trying to do, and they had to point you to like a cable.
And then they'd have it.
And they would have it.
The
They would have
store
the
would be
connectors.
small, but no matter what you needed, they'd have it.
Because the early days of our videos, of course, we were doing what everybody was doing, which is finding 2 VCRs and then putting them together with RCA cables, right?
And it kind of empowered you to like figure stuff out.
Yeah, and you could like get little motors and stuff there. Like you could build stuff from there. I never got too into that. It was just a little too detail oriented.
And they had like, you could probably buy like a drum machine there.
Oh yeah.
Like keyboards, drum machine, that type of stuff.
In that small window where Radio Shack and the internet both existed at the same time, I found a diagram on how to build your own cable black box. For people who don't know, you had a black box and you hook it up to your TV and you got all the premium channels for free. It was hacking the system. All the squiggly lines went away.
What?
Yeah, because it's all coming into your house. It's just they're blocking it with the little contraption.
Exactly. Everybody received them, but they were always scrambled.
Yeah.
And you'd go to Radio Shack to get that?
I got all the pieces and I built it, and hello, Playboy TV.
Boy, I was looking at squiggly stuff and you got the real thing.
You got smarter until you went blind.
Oh,
Right.
I see what you mean.
I see what you mean. So,
And they were small town, like
everybody had one.
Womble and Sons
Had a
in
Radio Shack
Lillington was
section.
a Radio Shack, had a Radio Shack section in its section. You know what I'm saying?
and then
You know what I'm trying to say?
And then when computers came along, yeah, give it to me. When computers came along, I'm a loser. There became more like electronic stores, like computer stores. Like, what's the crazy electronic store that has all the cool design that's in Burbank that's also
Fry's?
shut? Fry's? Did it shut down?
I think so.
So
Of course it did.
even something as wonderful as that, now you're just like, I'm going to type in what I need, and then I'm just going to order it from the internet.
Yeah.
I mean,
But we're putting
why
Radio
wouldn't
Shack
you?
at number one.
Radio Shack brings back great memories.
Now, I had a lot of great memories at the Toys R Us. Don't know what Kids R Us is, though. Is that
it's the baby part.
No, that's
no,
Babies
that's
R Us.
Babies R Us.
Toys
Let me
R
see.
Us.
Let me see.
What?
What a treasure trove. I mean, like, they were huge. And that was in, like, I remember the Nintendo games. They had a whole aisle that was just the flap with the games, and then you would take the thing up and you'd buy the game, and you could just look through all the games, and you'd pull the flap up and you'd read it would be the front and back of the
You could play the game.
game. And then you could play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like stand there and on the
On that
aisle.
little station where the controller that
Just
was
wait for somebody.
attached to the thing and you couldn't take
Yeah.
away.
Kids R Us was clothes. I don't think we ever had a Kids R Us.
Never saw that.
If you've seen the movie Roof Man, which
Yes.
I recommend, because it takes place in North Carolina, based on a true story, and it has Toys R Us is a central plot point to it,
Right.
and it's like a late '90s, early 2000s Toys R Us. And I just remember, so Peter Dinklage plays not my neighbor Peter Dinklage, but the actor, plays the manager of the Toys R Us, and it's like the Christmas season, and it totally hit me. This is the way that it would work. They make like all of their money in this like the Christmas season. It's like when everybody is in there just tearing it apart.
Yeah.
And because you just remember the feeling that you would have. Now, I didn't get to go into Toys R Us a lot. My parents took me to Brindle's, which had other stuff
Which is
besides
basically
toys.
like a Sears.
But the couple of times I did go into Toys R Us, it was almost overwhelming.
Too much.
Almost too much.
I
Overstimulation.
remember the last time I went to a Toys R Us, I bought Lincoln a bike out here.
You bought him a toy bike.
I bought him a bike
Yeah.
from there. And it might have been Lily, actually.
You know.
And then that was it. Last time I set foot in one. Yeah. You'd walk in, and you'd have to walk all the way around to the right, and there would be all the stuff that you weren't there to shop for. But it would be like newfangled stuff that they wanted you to buy, and it was just so exciting.
So it sounds like this, at least for the children versions of us, this was pretty big.
I think it was. I think it's bigger than Sharper Image. You wish you could have gone there.
Yeah, because you actually bought stuff there.
Yes, I'm putting.
But it's no Radio Shack. Now, Joanne's
Joanne's
shut
done?
down? When? So what are they doing about fabrics now?
Oh God! Don't tell me Hobby Lobby.
What are the fabric
Why
people
is
doing?
Hobby Lobby still going and Joanne not going? Because we all thought it was Joanne.
Providence.
Oh, 2025. It just happened. R.I.P.
Why? Where else
I mean,
can you go
I
to
think
get
because
fabrics?
people are, use Amazon and just order stuff.
Michael's.
That bastard.
Michael took out Joanne.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good.
I don't like that.
Also, I don't think a lot of people are fabricking.
I would think that with the internet, it would be even more people.
That's not
doing it.
true. I've been told a lot of people are fabricking.
But where do you guys get your fabs?
Hobby Lobby is unfortunately better than Michael's.
Hobby Lobby is better than Michael's.
Okay. Well, okay. You steal from there, though. Well, this is not doing anything for us
not doing
personally.
anything for
This
us.
is doing so little for us.
I'm curious if this is going to do anything
Oh,
for you.
God, I can't even look at it.
Borders.
It gets me excited. I love a bookstore. I could spend all day in there. Good Lord.
Barnes & Noble has survived. Borders did not. Barnes & Noble predates this. I have an affinity to the Barn and
Oh, I'm a
B&N.
big B&N guy. But
Borders was more warehousey, was it not?
I think
Was
Borders-
either one near you growing up?
Raleigh.
So no.
Yeah, I mean, but
Not really.
if we wanted to go to a real store, we went to Cary or Raleigh.
But it was like Barnes & Noble was classy, and then you had Books A Million, which was like icky, and then in the middle you had Borders. That's why they call it Borders. It was right on the border between class and ick.
I'm just thinking about, this isn't specific to Borders because I can't tell you enough specific things about Borders, and I know that's the question. But this is just a little bit of a bookstores in general, which I will say that a smaller, more curated bookstore
Those are fun,
is very great.
especially if you can still drink some coffee in there.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to, is it Vroman's
Yes, it
in
is.
Pasadena, which is just like, I think it's as good as a bookstore can get because they've got a little cafe with some coffee. They have an incredible pen and stationery section with lots of fountain pens, and the people know what's up. They know what's going on. And then they have basically every book that you could imagine, very well organized, and they do the thing that you don't get at a Borders or a B&N, which is the staff picks. And so you've got the individual people who've read the book and they've like handwritten sometimes this little recommendation about why this book is great. I mean, I love a bookstore, and I've gotten over
The
my
fabric people
intimidation.
would like you to know that they do staff picks at Barnes & Noble.
Oh,
But who's the staff, really?
They ask the staff at Vroman's, actually. and
yeah.
they-
they're market plants. Is
Yeah,
what
they just do it because they started doing it at the little bookstores. I'm not anti B&N. I mean, maybe I should be. I don't know what I'm supposed to be against. But the thing about the bookstore, I told you about this phenomenon that happens to me when I go into a bookstore, which is a sense of overwhelm that makes me feel like there's so many things that people have written about, and I will only know a fraction of this, and is it even worth reading a book? Like that happens to me, and I get kind of overwhelmed. And I was reading a really good book lately, which I think is called What We Can Know, which is great, by Ian McEwan. And a character is in this book describing this exact feeling, and I've never heard anybody else talk about that, but the character is talking about being in a bookstore and having that existential like overwhelm
Okay.
of being in there with all the stuff that people have put out, and then you're like, where do I even start? What do I do? How many books do I get? I've gotten over that. I'm just like, I don't need to read it all. I'm just going to read the one thing that's right in front of me.
That's right. Yeah.
So I say I'm all for Borders because we need more bookstores. You got to start reading again, people.
Well, I guess we're moving that up above.
You got to
Over
fight against the
Blockbuster?
machine.
Why
You
is
get off your phone and get in a book. Unless it's a book on your phone.
But buy toys first and cords.
And we will close with Kmart, which this is controversial because apparently there might be some that are still left in the US and maybe internationally. But for all intents and purposes, they have shut down.
Yeah, which is why we're putting them over here.
Our new Be Nicer to People color block hoodies just dropped in 2 colors. Shop them now at mythical.com.